Hello, Kayla. Thank you for letting me interview you regarding Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. The purpose of this interview is for you to demonstrate your understanding of the theory and how the theory applies to you and your students you currently teach or plan to teach. So imagine I have never heard of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. Briefly explain salient features of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development and what is the source of this information.
So Erickson's theory of psychosocial development is basically based off of the age that students, or not students, but people in general are going through in their life. So, for example, newborns tend to go through the stage 1, which is trust versus mistrust. So this is a crucial time in an infant's life where they are very dependent on their mother for everything, and if the mother tends to have a babysitter around most of the time rather than being there herself, it will cause mistrust in the child's life. So as you can see, based off of the stages, as you get older, there's certain stages that you'll face depending on the time of your life.
Alright, so at what stage of development do you see yourself now, and why do you think so?
So I definitely think that I am at stage 6, which is intimacy versus isolation, and that is ranges age 18 through 40. And during this period, I'm looking at my notes. During this period, we begin to share ourselves more intimately with others, and this is a quote from Saul McLeod. And this is basically a time in your life where you start to form relationships with others, whether it's personal or if it's in a workplace. So for me, I have a relationship with my husband since we just got married a year ago, so we're still working on balancing everything and getting used to one another's routines. And on top of that, I work at a high school, so I have to work with other teachers and staff members, and even though I don't always agree with their decisions, I have to listen to them. And so this stage in your life is mainly focused on relationships and being able to handle them in an appropriate way and manner, and just kind of learning how to communicate and get along with others even if you don't agree with them. So intimacy versus isolation is definitely the stage where I believe that I am. And another quote from Saul McLeod is, "Avoiding intimacy, fearing commitment in relationships can lead to isolation, loneliness, and sometimes depression." So this time in your life, it's crucial that you're able to form relationships, even if it's just with friends, nothing serious, because everyone wants someone to talk to and just have someone that they can relate to and things like that.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Alright, explain how being at this stage of development may influence your behavior and outlook in the classroom. And then on what do you base this explanation?
So, based off of the stages of development, there are certain stages that children and students are going through. So like I said, younger kids tend to go through trust versus mistrust, and this is when relationships with others are super important. And then for me, where I was saying intimacy versus isolation is ranges 18 to 40. So you also see, for me, I work at a high school, so I have a lot of students that are starting to form relationships and things like that, and you see them struggle and go through things, and they tend to think that it's the end of the world. But unfortunately, everybody has to go through this, and it's such a big time in their lives. And I know for me, I'm constantly there for them. I know one girl that I have, she's actually a freshman, so she's a little younger than technically what this age frame is for this stage, but I work with her, and she's in the special needs area, but she wants a boyfriend so bad, and she'll even lie to me about having one because I think she just has a lot of self-esteem issues. And I just kind of talk to her and just make her feel better because she thinks that she has to have a boyfriend, and she thinks that everyone's going to judge her if she doesn't. So I just kind of reassure her that at some point that will be like a thing that she needs to face, but at her age she doesn't necessarily need that. But she's also dealing with other high school students that are going through that stages, like the sophomores and juniors, for example, that are going to prom and finding prom dates and stuff. So she automatically feels like she has to do the same. And so I also feel like although she is younger than this stage, she feels like she's a part of this stage just because she's surrounded by others that are going through it. if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, there you go. All right, so identify what level your students are and are likely to be at in Erickson stages.
So I'm pretty sure that I just kind of explained that a little bit. But working in a high school, I think that they're going through a lot of learning about themselves, which is also in this stage, which is stage 6, intimacy versus isolation, because they're so focused on forming relationships with others and they're not like extremely focused on themselves. And I tend to think that further along down the road you learn how to care about yourself more, but when you're younger and you're experiencing relationships, you tend to want to impress others, and rather than focusing on yourself. And being around high school students, I can definitely see why some of them are sad or depressed. I know I work with students that are on the depressed side, and that's simply because they're constantly around relationships, and I think that they feel like they need to be in one even though that they don't, which, talking about that girl, she constantly tells me all of these things on how she went on a date and whatnot, and she's nervous on how it went. And I definitely think for high school students, this is like the stage that they're at, and it's a really hard time because not only is it right before college and your grades are very important, but they're so focused on finding themselves but also forming relationships with others, and I think the relationships kind of take away from them learning about themselves.
Alright, so explain how being at this stage of development may influence their behavior and outlook in your classroom. On what do you base this explanation?
So I think at this stage, since kids aren't necessarily focused on themselves, I guess, they're kind of in the stage of wanting to impress others because they think someone's cute in the class, or they just simply want to make themselves look cool. And I think for me, it causes them to act up in the class. I know there's one student in particular that he tries to be cool because he thinks this other girl's cute in my class, and he picks on this other kid that's more on the the severe side of the special ed spectrum. And it's really sad because although I tell the kid to stop, the other kid doesn't really know what's going on. And it's really sad because the kid is making fun of the other kid because he's trying to look cool because he wants his friends in the class to think that he's cool. And everyone thinks it's funny, but I just think that at this stage they're not so sure as to what they're doing. They just try to be cool and impress others, but they don't realize that what they're doing is actually hurting others. So I definitely think it causes chaos and disruption in the classroom.
Alright, what might be some of the disconnects between you and your students, keeping the differences in the two stages in mind?
Well, to be honest, I think I'm kind of close to what they're going through. Obviously, I'm a lot more mature and a little bit older than them, but I feel like not too long ago I was facing this stage as well. Being 21, I feel like I'm pretty close in age, and I'm able to understand where these students are coming from, whereas some of the other teachers that I work with are older, and they've gone through these stages years and years ago. So I definitely feel that on that part of the spectrum, I'm better able at understanding them. And so I honestly don't think that I'm not able to help them, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I'm kind of in their stage to the point that I can help them.
Yep, makes sense to me. So, you got any other final comments you'd like to make?
I do not.
Alright, Kayla, thank you for letting me interview. And for what it's worth, I would hire you as a teacher.
Thank you.